Okay, so anyone have anything they'd like to share or comment on or ask any questions?
I had to share from training this morning. I was following the breath the whole time and just seeing where there was breath and where there wasn't, and felt like that really opened things up, and also just was helpful in terms of just like holding my curiosity. So I guess it was an easier continual focal point through the whole thing. And
did you say
and
holding your breath?
No, like holding my attention on where there was breath and where there wasn't.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and it felt like that kind of captured my attention. So I was noticing my mind wasn't wandering as much. And then when we were doing the dantian breathing and breathing into that, like the point at the dantian, I felt the light expanding from the dantian to the rest of my body. And then I had this sensation of like I could feel that my dantian was more open than my heart was, and sort of like the dantian kind of like holding the heart, and then the heart started to expand with that support. It was like sort of I started breathing into the heart and the dantian simultaneously, but it was just this sensation of the dantian supporting the heart, and then the heart could open, which I hadn't experienced before. The dantians working together in quite that way, like one feeling like it was supporting the other. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, what's the word for it? What you experienced is actually very classic, because traditionally, it used to be that you always actually, well, okay, when I say traditionally, I gotta be cautious because there are different Taoist schools. But let's say, for instance, if you're kind of from a bigger Taoist school, a standardized Taoist school, and not one that's more kind of like just one teacher to a student, or like kind of a smaller lineage that's more personal. But if you're talking like a bigger school, the traditional is actually basically always to work on your dantian first, because the dantian supports all the things on the top, and it stabilizes everything. And so, and that experience that you just had is actually exactly what you have, which is where you feel like your heart is being supported by the dantian, and you feel really grounded. And so, now, having said that, it doesn't need to be like that. It's actually better to follow kind of what wants to naturally open, as long as you have a groundedness, meaning as in you're feeling your body and you're within that groundedness of feeling your whole body. You're allowing yourself to experience, what your body naturally wants to do. It's like a much better way to approach it. It's much more natural. But when you're teaching a lot of people and you're kind of wanting to teach things stable, then actually starting with the dantian is actually just a good way to do that. But having said that, when your lower dantian actually opens up, then the ones in the top are naturally supported, and you naturally have a grounding from that effect. And so I just wanted to just say, like, you kind of just really said, it seems like you felt that relationship between the dantians, or the chakras, and how they support each other and how they breathe into each other. So, and then the other thing I want to say is that, now that you're experiencing, just, and it's actually kind of like, if you'll notice, a lot of traditions actually has a person just bring their awareness to the breath. And then actually just, we kind of talked about this, I believe, even in these morning Q&As, where we talk about um, just seeing where the breath is reaching and not. And it's like a very powerful sensation. And what I like to say is that, it's like, as you're exploring that, at some point, you'll probably feel that it's just not as interesting anymore. And you will get frustrated that it doesn't seem to give you the same thing because you want it to. And when that happens, that means that your nervous system is actually done exploring that, and actually just let your awareness, I don't want to quite use the word wander, but let your awareness go where it wants to, because and you'll notice that there's a natural resting place, a new resting place for your awareness. And that's what your whole system wants to explore, because kind of when you reach that point, it means that your system has optimized breathing to the rest of the body and the awareness. And when it gets optimized, then you'll notice that the attention shifts to something else, but don't look for it. Let your attention be moved by, if you will, your spirit, meaning as in if you don't panic because you're looking for a result, meaning as in to feel better or to have a better experience, and you don't panic, but you actually just let your attention be. And you do attention on attention. What you'll notice is that your attention naturally actually goes to that, and you'll be surprised where your attention leads you, because the leading happens from your entire system, from your spirit, from the universe, from your meridians, from your chakras, from your physical body, from your organs. And so it happens as a whole. It's not just a one thing. And so, and the more you do this, the more you actually feel that, how actually where your attention goes naturally is dependent on what needs to come next in your growth and development and your balance. And it's really perfectly orchestrated. So, I feel like you had a really great discovery, and it felt really natural the way you described it, just naturally finding a balance point, effortlessly. And to me, that speaks more about the maturity of your attention than anything else. And so I wanted to kind of just allow you to trust where your attention wants to go, because once that happens, you'll feel your spirit more and more. And what you'll notice is that where your attention goes actually is determined by your spirit, or if you will, your spirit body, or you could say your energy body. But I don't like calling energy body, because oftentimes when people talk about the energy body, there's a distinct sense of the mind observing the energy body instead of noticing that you are your energy body. And so it's kind of literally your spirit body, or you are your spirit, where you can identify yourself more as your spirit. So that's a distinction I'm making. But as you allow your attention to be, you'll notice that your spirit is in relation to the rest of the universe, and your body is a part of that, of how it holds itself, how it's receiving energy, how it is relating to the events of your life, and what you're eating, and what you're doing physically, and like really just from moment to moment. And as so it's kind of like the areas in your system that has less light, you know, it goes to the next highest leverage point. And so, and your attention just naturally does that. And it comes from your spirit body, because your spirit body can tell in relation to the rest of the universe what part of your system um, needs to be, if you will use the traditional term, be purified next. And so apparently for this morning, it was your breathing. And that's why in these teachings, you know, even though there's something that's called, you know, considered to be the ultimate teaching, which is like the teaching that's supposed to come towards the end, it's, you know, it's, there's a reason, it's not a secret for what people think it is. It's not a secret because, you know, it's like closely guarded. It's actually typically a secret because it's a natural secret, as in, it's not something that opens up until your system is ready to be able to actually perceive it. And so it comes at the end, not because, you know, it's the highest leverage point, but it's hard, you know, it's guarded, but it comes at the end because simply our spirit body in relation to our physical body wasn't ready for it. And so, because you could say that the journey is the spirit body and the physical body's relation to the rest of the universe. So I don't know whether that made sense, but all that to say, I wanted to say, you know, enjoy this, but then if the enjoyment of this higher leverage point, you know, seems to wane, just naturally I should just see where your attention wants to rest next. And I feel like that process of you allowing your attention to do that, which is called attention on attention, I feel like you will actually get a lot out of that. And I feel like that will take your whole cultivation to a whole nother level, especially since when a person's naturally starts settling on the breath, that's a really good place actually.
Thank you so much, Master Kim. Yeah, what you were saying was just bringing a lot together for me, and I had a sense of, you know, following the breath. I was like, oh, this feels like a lead into the spirit body. It's like I feel more connected to the spirit body, and I could also feel the fear there of like, oh, this is, you know, this is leading me into something like an expanded thing from where I've, you know, been living. And yeah, so just appreciating what you were saying about the spirit body, and also it felt like I had this block in the back of my heart area, and I could feel, it's like I was sort of trying to address it before, and it felt like just by following the breath and following the flow this morning, it unfolded both physically, but then also like an emotional thing that had been sort of caught up. I had some movement there, so it was just, I guess, an experience of another way of it's like just kind of following the breath and following the flow, like undid the place where it was stuck without having to do anything about it. It just sort of opened itself, like in these multiple areas. So yeah,
Just naturally.
yeah.
That's traditionally, you know, called, you know, basically spontaneous wisdom or spontaneous realization. or, you know, basically where things just resolve themselves. You're not trying to resolve anything, but, you know, just things rise out of themselves, and then they also resolve by themselves. So that's really good. Yeah, the more you have those experiences, the more you realize that you don't need to do anything. That's actually where the system principle, there's nothing to do, only to see, comes in, because it's really, it just resolves by itself. And it's the way of the universe, because all things are always trying to balance. So you don't need to do anything. If you just leave it be, it resolves itself. It's the fear that it's not going to get resolved that makes us force it, that actually creates more issue.
That makes a lot of sense. And I feel like intellectually, you know, I had that concept, but in practice, I guess just was, you know, missing the experience of it. And then, yeah. And then there was a piece too about like feeling the lower dantian being supportive of the middle dantian. It felt like that was the sensation of secure attachment from the inside. It's like I felt, I guess I felt the support that my system was looking for, but it was, you know, it was being accessed from inside of my system. So that was a cool, it's like, I guess an anchor or like a touchstone of like, oh, I have that sensation in my body, because I, you know, mostly think of secure attachment as relational and like relating to the universe or relating to other people or whatever, but it's like also I've had that sensation before in standing meditation where it's like I feel like I'm being supported by something, but it's like it's my own system supporting me.
Thank you. That was beautifully said. You know, okay, I'm gonna okay. So so you experiencing that, actually, it's kind of actually beautiful, because the way Chinese look at it is that there are 12 meridians, there are 5 elements. So the 12 meridians are actually divided into 5 elements. And each of, and so in each of the meridians, you know, as you know, belong to one of the elements. And one of the key things is that your spirit, your yuan shen, or your original spirit, actually is believed to have split into 5, and is housed in your yin organs. So, for instance, you know, po, part of your spirit, is housed in your lungs. The hun is housed in your liver. Your tzu is housed in your kidneys. Your shen, not the yuan shen, but the shen is housed in your heart. And so these 5 different elements, they actually have a relation to each other, and there's different aspects of yourself. So your organs literally actually have a relationship with each other. And so, so it's still relational. So it's not the self, but the self is of many parts. And that's one of the reasons why actually, if you read the classics, you know, it actually says that your mind is the king and needs to listen to its people. The people are referred to the different aspects within you. So it's still actually relational. And so this concept of the self, you know, I feel is actually so limiting, and that's why people get lonely, because they still feel alone. But in the concept of God, it's kind of interesting because it is said that the relational God, the relational God, and within the Trinity, there's the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son, and it is said that love is complete within that. And and it's kind of interesting because you see that model like over and over and over again in just so many different aspects. Because for one thing, what you get to notice is that the whole what in Buddhism they call the base nature, and they call it emptiness, but it's actually not what people think it is. It's so there's a distinct feel to this emptiness. It's a palpable feeling of this emptiness where you can feel its emptiness, but this emptiness is really kind of it kind of feels more what actually like what people would experience as God. It's like everything and nothing. It holds everything. It reflects all the things that we get to see, yet because it holds everything, it is nothing. And when you can dial into that place, you can experience a relationship with that emptiness and all that's reflected within. And that's the experience typically of what people have of awe, where your attention is really not on anything particular, but at the same time, it's like that oneness we experience. So there's that actual experience of the oneness. So that's one. And then there is the actual experience with the spirit realm, the spirit within ourselves, the spirit that's all around us, other people's spirit, and there's that relational realm. And then there is the actual physical relational realm, and it's also concretely different. And as you experience, like between your different organs, you can actually feel. But if sometimes that can seem more impersonal, but you actually find that each one of your organs and the physical aspects actually also have a personality. Your spirit body, you'll notice, actually has no personality. And so that's one of the reasons why your physical body determines your purpose and the manifestation, because it limits the infinite in an unlimited way. But anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. So I wanted to say the actual number of relational experiences we get to have within ourselves, as you can see, is a lot, actually. You can have a relationship between your mind, your spirit, and your heart and your instincts. That's 4 relationships right there. And then within your instincts, there are actually the 12 organs that relate to each other, which actually reflect back to the 12 constellations, which is actually a plentiful experience of relationship. Among those 5 house the 5 different aspects of your spirit itself. And then on top of that, you can actually relate to all the spirits of your lineage, which you could say is actually part of that soul, which actually connects back to the rest of all eternity. But then which part of that is separate from you? And so it is relational, and that's why we're never alone. But even within what we call the self, we have a complete relationship ecosystem. And what you get to find out is that the more complete that relational ecosystem within the self, the more you can relate to the things in the outside, because you become more able, you speak more languages, if you will. So you're able to connect to more people or more things.
Like a hologram.
Yes, yes. Or fractal, which is the same thing. That's why nothing is ever alone at any stage, at all levels. That's one of the reasons why all spiritual teachings always teach that separation is an illusion.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for filling in some of the details about it. I feel like it helps ground the experience that I have and give, yeah, I guess just direction for further exploration and also kind of tie it into everything else so it's more tangible. I mean, I don't really, I'm feeling really touched by everything you said and not really having the words to express it, but that's the best that I can do right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you. No, that's good. It's I feel like your mind got food for thought in terms of, the mind basically found new ways to relate. It's a conscious aspect of us that learns to connect with more and more. And, when we say we are letting go of our ego, we're basically finding bigger, better maps or more accurate maps to navigate through life. And whenever that, our mind finds a more accurate map, it is allowed to let go of some of the illusions and then, dial back more concretely into the present. And, and that's a very powerful thing. And so it's because the mind, whether we realize this or not, is there because it wants to have a relationship with everything. It's, the beauty of the mind. It's just when the mind, it's like but when it's afraid, it overthinks. And in an attempt to try and find union, it tries to do so by solving the problem and then turns everything into a problem instead of actually learning how to be present. And it's just more knowledge as to how it can safely be present. And so I understand, and thank you for saying that, and I can relate. This is where knowledge can be good because it leads to being present instead of solving a problem.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like that's the I mean, you've been giving me this feedback about not seeing things as a problem for, I've been working on this for a while, but it feels like just a different, like experiencing it from a different vantage point or yeah, like grounded in a different place, and then all of the context sort of helping tie I don't know, the words are kind of failing me, but it's like I appreciate you filling out that picture. It's like making, I guess, helping integrate, the physical experience and then all of the context that you've given to this point. It's like, yeah, just creating these threads of connection between the different things so that it like fills out more.
Thank you for saying that. And, I want to say, I always say this, but I'm going to say this again so that I want to say that, yeah, I have taught, and thank you for recognizing that. Really appreciate that. And I want to say, it wasn't so that you'd be able to do it. Because it's actually not something you can do. It's something you need to experience, and you've been experiencing it lately. And so, and that's very different, right? It's kind of like, to me, I had a realization a long time ago where I was like, I remembered that when I was 4 years old, if I thought about not caring about losing that candy, it seemed like an impossible thing, and I didn't know how adults did it, you know. And then I realized, as I grew up, I was like, oh, one day I realized I don't care about the candy like I used to. And that was surprising. That was surprising. That was surprising that, I didn't want the candy anymore, but then I could see why at the same time. And it was nothing I tried to do. It was just the experience accumulated to a point where that's what became natural. And, when we share things, it's almost like we don't share things necessarily to learn, but we share things, as I said, so we can become more aware when the time is right. And so I just wanted to say that. And also, I just want to say thank you for sharing that so that we can all grow in this together.
Master Ken, bowing to you.
I'm bowing back. And I am done with cleaning, so I gotta scooch. But thank you for this conversation, and happy growth, happy expanded awareness.
Thank you, Master Ken.
Thank you,
Master Ken.
Thank you, Master
Thank
Ken.
you. Thank you. Bye.